What are the biggest economic opportunities for business on planes reservations today?
The lack of business in general on a reservation allows the opportunity for large growth. There's a void of general business on the reservation, so that opens up an opportunity to move in and generate something. It's just the business model that is selected has to be something that is sold to the wants and not to the needs, because the needs won't do well. That's something I've seen. So that's a large opportunity right there. A lot of people who aren't from the reservation sell alcohol to residents. That's they do very well, quite well. But that's a want though. Alcohol's a want. So, but if you sell something that's a want, you'll do extremely well on the reservation. Now, what that is, I can't tell you what that is because it's all different on different reservations. Opportunities are different. But a lot of Indian reservations do casinos. So if you're able to get into online gambling, maybe do a merger with the online casino, with that current casino, and do their online gambling and try to see if you could do that. Even though a lot of tribes are compact tribes, but that's where you bring in some of the best. That's a whole business model I'm about to go down, but has to be a want, not a need. Because I've seen plenty of businesses that are met to the need and they don't do too well. So if you have a business model on a reservation, it can do quite well because there's a void of general business. It just has to be to a need, in my point of view, right? This is all from my perspective. Yeah.
How can businesses overcome infrastructure challenges on reservations?
Yeah, that's a major problem because there isn't a lot of business areas you can set up at, right? It has to be, yeah, that's a tough one because there's just most reservations are underdeveloped for everything. So in the 1800s, gold miners, the most people who made the most money wasn't the gold miners, it was the person who sold them the shovel to go mine gold. So that might be the business idea or thing to go down, would be, since I don't have an infrastructure here, what's the next best thing? Okay, if I can't get a brick and mortar, maybe I can do like a click and order business, an online business, a website. And that's typically a better business model. I've known several business owners on the reservation to go that way. They're able to have a lot more volume because an online store is far more cheaper to hold than an actual physical location. So that would what I'd be to suggest. It would be a business where you can do it online and you can market it to the people here on your reservation. That's what I would recommend. This is all from my perspective. I've seen that work quite well. So that might be the route to go down.
What strategies help small businesses succeed in isolated reservation markets?
I'd recommend using the AIs quite often. I'd recommend using those to talk to it for 45 minutes. If you have a problem and you can't solve it, talk to it for 45 minutes and see what solutions it comes up with. Because it might come up with something good. I've done that quite extensively, where I've had problems and I've asked whatever AI I've been using, and it gives me some options. It's usually not the best one, but then I do some hybrid thinking and I'm able to create one. You know, that's what I would recommend. Also, a bit, you gotta dream beyond the reservation as well. You can't just think, they call that like funnel thinking. You can't just think for on your res. You're like, all right, well, if I were to take this business to other reservations, would it do well there? Can I go national? Can I go worldwide? Can I take my business even bigger than what it is now? You got to think, all right, if I'm able to do that, it'll probably do well here on the res. And then you can build from there. So that's something to really think about. Can I take this bigger than just my reservation? Because the market on the reservation is really small. They have a lot of capital they spend, but it's spent on usually the wants. So a bunch of like bullshit. They spend it on drugs, whatever it may be, but they spend it on shit like that. So you got to think, all right, if majority of the money is going towards things of that nature, it's tough to compete against because they're all strung out or they're alcoholics or whatever they're spending their money on. How can I compete against that? Because a lot of Indians go and buy some Jordans or bullshit, and they buy liabilities opposed to assets. That's something to think about on your express or way down it. Can it go bigger than just my reservation? Because if you can go bigger than your reservation, you're going to do quite well in the neighboring border towns. That's something to think about or consider. Can it go beyond that? Can I stretch it? The internet, take it worldwide. So an online model might be the best to run. But then again, that takes someone to run an online store. Because there's 1,000 t-shirt stores that are online, right? So it's how do I have something that's competitive? Well, that's $1 million question, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something to solve. Or you don't even have to solve it. You can just totally rip someone else's business model completely. Just completely rip their business model. So I mean, yeah.
Okay. How can tribal governments better support private business growth?
Shit, I think most tribes are just trying to figure things out themselves. You can't rely on those guys for much. So try not to rely on the tribe for anything. If you can do business with them, that's dope. Because tribes, they may say they don't have a lot of money, but they have the most money on the reservation. They may not say they have any money, but they have the most money out of anything. So if you can do business with them, that's dope. And how far can you scale that business? Right? That's another thing. How far can you scale that business with them? Because they're the person with all the gold. On the reservation, majority of the time, the people with all the gold is the tribe. Now, how do I do business with the tribe itself? Well, that's the goal. Can I do business with the tribe? How far can I scale it? What can I bring it up to? And that's important. Once you figure that out, you're good. Sell to the man with all the gold. That's the tribe. They have all the gold, hypothetically speaking. And so if you can do that, you do a lot better than you would having a storefront. So, for example, there's a business model here that I've seen the show bands have. Some guy has all the coffee at every tribal building. So every tribal building has coffee in it, and they have a bunch of little fixtures with it. And their thing is they set up every department. We have 81 departments, so that's 81 buildings or 81 departments that have coffee contract with that one company. See, that was a niche. They got to do business with the person with all the gold, supplied them with all the coffee, and it's a benefit for the tribe because they get coffee now. They have it set up, and it makes their workers work more because once you got coffee, you can do more of this and that. Boom, bada, boom, right? Essentially, it's a business model I've seen. Yeah. That's something I recommend. Yeah, just look for those things. It might be a small thing like that. It might be a small thing such as doing the water, right? Doing the water jugs inside the business. I forget what you call them. The water company comes and fills up the water, and they have a little water faucet. Water comes out, you put your cup in. I forget what they call those, but that might be the option, right? That might be the play. You run it all for the whole tribe. The things like that. How do you do business with them? There's like a paper company. I don't know. There's small things like that. That's something to look forward to. But you can't be too much in there because then you start getting a lot of haters and they'll try to rip your business down, or they'll talk shit about you, or you might have dated a girl 20 years ago or a boy 15 years ago. I don't know. That's something to think about. Keep that in perspective. It can't be too big where it's in everybody's face, but it's just you're in there.
important is local workforce development for reservation businesses?
Damn, that's a tough question. Because most of my workforce is machines. That's my workforce. They're machines. They never stop working. To rely on a person is a liability now because that person might steal, they might fuck something up, it might be human error. They only can work so many hours in a day, right? So that in itself is from the mind of a capitalist, right? Now, for the tribe, it's crucial because they can't function without the people. If you replace them with machines, well, then you're just gonna keep the people impoverished. So you gotta, I guess it's important. It's important for the tribe because the tribes aren't really businesses. They're just more of like puppet governments. That's what they really are. They're not really there to do much. The reason why I say that is because they talk about sovereignty and all this or that, but we still adhere to federal laws. So we're still underneath